Remember, don't accept help from a tutor who doesn't blink. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Hello and welcome to or welcome back to Mystery Inc. My name is Richie. Today we've got another C.R.O.W. Files book review for you. Today we're talking about book number 6, The Uncanny Tutor. Let's go ahead and start with the blurb on the back, then I'll give you the brief overview of the plot and give you my thoughts on the book. So, what is that whirring sound? 12-year-old Jasmine Nguyen wants one thing: to get better. Better at piano, better at school, better at not melting down in front of an auditorium full of people. So when her parents hire Miss Olivia, a highly recommended tutor who can teach anything, Jasmine hopes she's finally getting the guidance she needs. But something about Miss Olivia isn't right. She never seems to breathe. Her movements are too smooth. Now Jasmine is trapped in her own home with a tutor who doesn't seem human? Don't skip a lesson. Miss Olivia is not great at processing rejection. Okay, the Uncanny Tutor. So we have our main character, Jessica. We have her two parents, and then we have Miss Olivia. And they're pretty much the only characters in the book. We very briefly meet a couple of Jessica's friends, but they're only in like a couple pages, a very short scene. So anyway, we open up with Jessica. She's a homeschooled kid, and she is at a piano recital, which I guess it's kind of like some kind of like a talent show sort of thing going on. I don't know if it was just piano recitals or multiple things like that for a bunch of different homeschooled kids. And so she's in front of a big audience, and she gets excessively nervous, has a bit of a panic attack when she starts doing her recital and accidentally misses a note. She completely freezes up, feels like she's getting super overheated, and just like to the point where she can't breathe, she can't move. Her parents end up coming up on stage. They help her off and then take her home. And they're just going back and forth trying to comfort her, figure out what's going on, what's wrong. And they end up, I can't remember if it's the mom or the dad, suggests hiring her a private tutor to help her, with her music, with her school education, and then also help her with her kind of like anxiety, emotional issues. Just kind of like a jack of all trades, like tutor, counselor, everything like that. Jessica thinks this is a great idea. She's really excited about it, actually. And so they end up hiring this Miss Olivia, who is highly recommended. She's got great reviews online for helping other kids. And so she shows up and for this interview, and the parents absolutely love her. Jessica thinks there's something a little bit odd about her, and she can't quite figure out what it is at the moment. Later that evening, she figures out that when Miss Olivia was here, she seemed very, very stiff and didn't blink at all, which she thinks is very weird. And so, but her parents decide, they set her up with this, this tutoring thing. So Miss Olivia's going to be showing up at 9 o'clock on the dot every morning for the next week, and working with her and helping her try to get over this anxiety stuff, helping her with her schoolwork and her music lessons and stuff like that. Her parents end up getting an email from a potential business partner that I guess they've been working with, trying to get an appointment with. And they are called away to a week-long trip to handle this like business pitch or something like that. Not explaining in great detail, but just enough to explain why the parents have to go away. Anyway, it turns out that Miss Olivia also is available to babysit, I guess you could say. I mean, our main character is 12 years old, but she can't be left alone. And so not only is Miss Olivia tutoring her, but now she's also looking after her for the week. Jessica's not thrilled about this because she thinks there's something weird going on with Miss Olivia, which, kind of, based on the title and the synopsis of the book, there's something weird going on. We just don't know exactly what yet. If you're like me, you probably guessed before you even started reading the book, but that's not really the main twist of the story, though, I will say. So anyway, Miss Olivia shows up and Jessica starts noticing some more strange, or sorry, not, why do I keep calling her Jessica? Her name's Jasmine. Why am I calling her Jessica? Have I been calling her Jessica this entire review? Okay, her name is Jasmine, not Jessica. I don't know where that came from. So anyway, Jasmine starts noticing these strange things about Miss Olivia, which kind of culminate at the end of the day when she wakes up at really early in the morning at 3:07, which, if you remember, if you've seen any of my other reviews or if you've read any of these books, 3:07 seems to be a recurring theme in these stories, and I'm not really sure why, or if that's going to be explained at some point. But I do remember that there was a point in Face in the Filter where the kids all decided to meet up in a classroom at exactly 3:07 in the afternoon. In book 8, is it the New Year's? Again, still don't know how to say the title, so I'll just call it 0 Hour. It's a New Year's thing where we have the time stop. The thing is that all the clocks and everything are supposed to freeze at midnight and reset at exactly 3 minutes and 7 seconds after midnight. And then in this one, we have our main character waking up at 3:07 in the morning, in the middle of the night. Very interesting. I don't remember 3:07 coming up in Ghost Kitchen, but I may have just missed it. I might have glazed over it at some point. If you've read it and there's a spot in there that mentions 3:07, let me know. But again, this is the 4th book I've read, and at least the 3rd one that's had this recurring number theme. Not sure what's up with that, but I'm very intrigued. Anyway, so she wakes up and goes downstairs to get herself a glass of milk. She mentions that kids usually drink warm milk to try and help them calm their nerves or something like that, or help them fall asleep or something. But she ends up just getting a glass of milk from the fridge and doesn't heat it up, or at least isn't described as heating it up. So I thought that was kind of strange, but not really relevant. Anyway, she discovers that there's something weird going on in the backyard. She sees some kind of movement or something. She goes and she sees, and this Miss Olivia character is just standing out there in the middle of the yard, completely motionless, staring at the garage. And now Jasmine starts to think, what is going on here? There's something really weird happening with Miss Olivia. She ends up going into the garage, and then after a minute, Jasmine decides to follow her and investigate. I'm pretty much going to leave it there. I don't want to give any more of the story away, but some strange things happen relating to the garage, and then that kind of culminates into amping up the story, and then we have our plot twist at the end, which I did not. I guess I did see it coming. I kind of guessed the main plot twist. It was very early in the book. I want to say it was within the first 15 pages. Yeah, within the first 15 pages. Which, if you catch the little details here and there, it's pretty obvious. But the plot twist is not really what made this book good, in my opinion. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it, I loved this book. It was almost as good as book 8. It was much better than the first book, and surprisingly better than Ghost Kitchen as well. Wasn't particularly scary in my opinion, at least not until pretty close to the end. There was some pretty high anxiety, but the twist ending was very emotional for me. I don't know if everybody would have that same reaction, but it was not just like your typical scary twist in a book like this, or but it was a solid twist. Like I said, it was pretty emotional and also a little thought provoking, which was kind of surprising. So yeah, this was overall. I really enjoyed this one. So let's look at my star rankings, and I'll give you some more details. All right. As you can see, this book got a very good overall scores. Characters, and we didn't have a lot of characters. We just had the parents, we had Jasmine, and then we had Miss Olivia. Jasmine was far and away like the highlight of the story. Just her character in general, the way she's portrayed, the way she behaves, the way she thinks, and the way she feels. Um, a lot of very relatable traits, and just overall very well written, in my opinion. Miss Olivia doesn't have a lot of personality, doesn't have a lot of emotion, but we can kind of guess based on the synopsis of the story why that's happening. And then Jasmine's parents, they they don't play a huge role in the story, but they're definitely around for a large chunk of the beginning of it. Um, Seem to be very sensible, very down to earth, very realistic characters for the most part. And so yeah, I couldn't find any fault with the characters here. So 5 stars there. Atmosphere in this book, I give it a 4 star. It wasn't incredible, but it wasn't. There was nothing bad about the atmosphere really. Um, I knocked it down a little bit because it wasn't super scary. Not that these books necessarily have to be scary, but it just didn't have. There wasn't a lot of tension, in my opinion, at least in the middle of the book. There was some at the beginning and a good amount of it towards the end, but in the middle, it felt like it was missing a little bit. A little bit of that for me. As far as the plot and the twist go, yeah, I had to knock this one down a little bit because, I guessed what was going on with Miss Olivia almost, before I opened the cover. And I guess the other big plot twist, like I said, very early on in the story. So I had to knock it down a bit for that. Overall, the plot was fine. It was good. Um, it made sense and it had a reasonable conclusion. It wasn't my favorite conclusion, but that was just personal opinion because like I said, it was kind of emotional at the end there, and I think it was good and it was well done, but like I said, it got me a little bit at the end there. Pacing and intrigue, yeah, the pacing was fine. It was a little bit of a slow burn at the beginning, but that was very intentional. It felt appropriate. And as far as intrigue goes, yeah, it was great. I started reading this morning, and I didn't read it straight through, but I read the whole book in one day over 2 or 3 different sittings. So yeah, I couldn't put this one down. Couldn't fault it on the pacing or the intrigue. Overall enjoyment, yeah, solid 5 out of 5. Like this, while I enjoyed the setting and the overall story of book 8 better, the characters and the personality, I guess, of this book, um, it might be my favorite so far. It's close between this and book 8. I think book 8 got a better overall score, and I think I did enjoy that story a bit more as a story, but um, Jasmine just as a character, absolutely phenomenal. Love this book. Did have a couple of minor issues. Again, there were 2 points in the story that I noted where, again, for just one sentence, it changed from first person to a third person for just a single sentence. Again, just a weird, little minor issue. And then there was um, one grammatical issue that I encountered. As you know, if you seen any of these reviews or reading these books for yourself, you probably come across some of these issues. There's only one in this one where I think one use of the word "the" was missing to make the sentence make sense, but very minor issue. Again, I bought all these books at the same time, so if there have been any edits or updates to the stories, that may have already happened before I got a hold of them, or after I got a hold of them, I should say. So yeah, not a big issue with that on this particular book. I felt like this was probably the best written, um, technically written of all of them that I've read so far. Again, I've read book 1, 4, 6, and 8 at this point. So yeah, overall score here, it was a 4.4 out of 5, taking account, for those minor issues with the twist and the atmosphere, I guess, which gives a 4.4, bringing it in just below book 8 and a decent score above book 4 here. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this book. Jasmine was a great character. The story was great overall. Not not super crazy. Again, I saw pretty much where this was going right from the beginning, but it was still well written and a well thought out story with good character. Good characters, good character development too. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one. Have you read this? Have you read any of the books in the series? Um, Let me know. And yeah, so that's gonna wrap up the review for today. So upcoming next review that we're gonna have is gonna be the last House of Shivers book I have to read that is currently released, and that's gonna be book 5, The Last Sleepover. Yeah, book 5. And then once we finish that, I think we got the first Boxcar Children book that I'm gonna read and review, and then I'm not sure what else is coming after that. As far as the next C.R.O.W book that we're going to do, I think we're going to read Year Dot Book next. This is book number 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for spending some time with me today. And God bless, and have a great rest of your day.